again, everyone, and welcome to this Friday edition of ESPN FC. I'm Alexis Nunes alongside Stevie Nicol, a very confident Stevie Nicol, I would say, and Craig Burley. Well, we're going to find out in just a bit because
more confident than last.
A lot more confident than last Thursday. He has got a bit of a glow about him, and I wonder what that is. We'll see if he still has the glow after this weekend. Because
he's out of breath.
We're sitting in front of the fire all day.
He's just come up 10 flights of stairs.
We're kicking off things in the Premier League because, like I said, it's a big one this Sunday. Number 2 versus number 3 in the standings at the moment. Manchester City going up against Liverpool. Let's have a look at the odds to see how the bookies think this one will go. And surprise, surprise, Manchester City just the slight favourites. Probably has to do with the fact that they will be at home at the Etihad. Right, let's get straight into it. Nader Manua is joining us as well as Frank Leboeuf. But Stevie Nicol, you know I'm going to start with you on this one. Do you feel like you're a bit more optimistic going into this one after what we saw from Liverpool against Villa and, of course, against Real Madrid?
Absolutely. If you'd asked me that question this time last week, I would have been telling you how they were going to lose, why they were going to lose, and how many they were going to lose by. But now, it's amazing what happens in the space of a week. The optimism has returned, and it's everything I'm thinking about is positive, to be quite frank with you.
Wow.
Well, I'm positive.
The crisis averted.
Well, I think it's still a little early. It's a couple of games. The last one obviously being a huge performance and result. So yeah, I'm more confident in Liverpool going forward, 100%. Up until Villa, it didn't look like anybody had actually kicked the ball with each other for, well, ever. So going forward, yeah, I think there's still question marks over the defence, and that is my biggest concern. But in terms of being able to create chances and score, I think they can, absolutely, against City away from home.
All right, well, I can't wait to hear what Nader Manua thinks about this one because we do have him as our City man here. Nader, it's also been a big week with 2 big wins for Manchester City. Erling Haaland continuing to be in destructive form, but Phil Foden as well looking good. We're going to talk about him later. But is this team now looking more like the old City?
I think in some ways, yes. Obviously, with slightly different personnel, but ultimately they do feel like they're in a better sort of position. I think defensively they've looked quite solid as well in recent weeks, not out of all by Donnarumma being in that side as well. So I think as they approach this game, it's not necessarily the free scoring City of, say, where they're absolute peak, but they're finding ways to win different games of football. Not necessarily playing into the other team's strengths, like, for example, the way they played against Bournemouth. If that ends up being an end-to-end game, it's Bournemouth that are going to win. In the midweek, same thing potentially with Dortmund, but instead they've managed 2 good wins against 2 good sides, and obviously sides that people would expect City to beat. But as Stevie was saying with Liverpool, it's that building of momentum, it's that level of belief, and they approach this game with Liverpool now in a good position, and knowing that playing at home is going to make a big difference, and they want to make amends, I imagine, from the way they played against them last year. I think in the home tie, it was the first time in a long time that they lost to Liverpool at home. But Liverpool were in a far better position then, and City were in a horrible position as well. But now is positive, and thankfully I think this is actually going to end up being a good game, as opposed to what could have been a horror show if we were looking ahead to it a few weeks ago.
That was such a level-headed answer from Nader. I didn't want that.
Very sensible, wasn't it?
No, too sensible. I wanted him to say, yes, we're out for blood. Watch out, Liverpool. Watch out, Stevie Nicol.
Well, you asked him about City being... What was the question again?
Back to the old City that we've come to know and relatively love.
Well, no, is the answer.
They're not.
No.
What do you think they are?
No, that's what I'm asking.
Well, I'm asking you.
No, no, they're still...
Well, they're not. I mean, they're a long way from that at the moment. They're well behind Arsenal. There's still a lot of questions about their defence. Yeah, they're Erling Haaland scoring goals, but they used to petrify teams. I mean, they dominated English football for, 4 or 5 years. They should have won the Champions League more than they did, but they sort of somehow threw away, knockout quarter-finals and semi-finals, lost a final to Chelsea when Guardiola got the team wrong. That was a scary City side. This is a good City side at the moment. They've had a decent start. They're, both Liverpool. We'll put it another way. A, they are quite a few points behind Arsenal, and B, Liverpool have just come off a pretty catastrophic period up until the Villa and the Real Madrid game. That period where his chin was on the floor, all the chins were on the floor. Arne Slot was at press conferences, he was saying this, that, and this, and the next thing, and I can't get results, and I can't. And yet they can go above City tomorrow at the weekend, Sunday. They can go above them. So I think that tells you that, you know, at the moment, both these sides have a ways to go.
Yep.
At the moment, Arsenal are the right package. Good up front, strong in midfield, strong at the back, have a good squad. But City have been exciting, and Liverpool have obviously had a good week. But, you know, there's none of these teams. This is not Liverpool of last year just yet, and this is not City of yesteryear just yet. They're quite a ways away from that, I would say.
Frank, if you take in what Craig said, if we had to look at weaknesses in this Liverpool team as well as Manchester City, would you say it's in their defences?
Yes, it still is. It's getting a little bit better because I found Konate very good last time against Aston Villa, but also against Real Madrid. I think there is a little spit of betterness, I would say, from Liverpool everywhere, and also in their heads, where mentally they're more accurate, I would say, and ready to give efforts altogether. So, but yeah, overall, we still want to see better positioning, better understanding between the defenders and also the middle of the park. And I don't know if Robertson's going to be put back, which I think it should. It should be. Kerkez should stay on the bench. Yeah, they still have to work on some positioning and individuals. But really, it's getting better, so we have to be confident. But against Man City, who really know how to work, and if we are going to talk about Foden later, we have to talk about what Doku and Savinho were capable of doing during the Manchester City Champions League game. They opened another threat on the side who maybe allowed Foden and Allen in the middle of the park to be in the center of the park and in the middle of the park to have more spaces and be even more dangerous.
This game should be, sorry Stevie, this game should be pretty exciting because both teams haven't got the capabilities at the moment to do what Arsenal can do. If this is one of these teams playing against Arsenal, Liverpool or City, might not be quite as an exciting game, I would say, as this could be in Sunday, because Arsenal have the ability to shut a game down as well as be physical and go and play an attacking game as well. Both these sides at the moment don't have that. They've got the flaws in the game, particularly Liverpool in recent weeks, where they're not able to just hold a good shape and keep a clean sheet. And I dare say that's not City's game either. So I think for those reasons, this game, because of their flaws early on in the season, and both of them want to play the way they want to play, should be a pretty open game.
You know, you remember 4 or 5 years ago when these two sides were absolutely at their peak and we couldn't wait. The game, yeah. We were excited that the game was coming up. Well, it's actually, I feel the same way about this game. The only difference is both sides are not at their best, which is why it's going to be exciting. Because I've just said Liverpool look as though they're getting way better going forward, which is great because they're up against a team in City who absolutely 100% will try and dominate and push Liverpool back, which means Liverpool can counter on them. At the same time, yeah, Haaland scoring crazy amounts of goals, and Liverpool's defence is questionable as well. So for completely different reasons than maybe 4 or 5 years ago, it's really tough to call this game. The only thing I think most of us are thinking is there's goals in it. Yeah. Because both sides look as though they're creating. Certainly Haaland scoring for fun, but both sides are vulnerable defensively. So this is a real tough one to call.
Stevie, just looking at the starting 11 against Liverpool, of course, we talked a lot yesterday about the addition of Andy Robertson and how good he has been. Craig pointed out the experience that he brings, even though he's not the Robbo we're used to seeing from a couple of seasons ago. Does he start tomorrow? Does he have to?
Absolutely has to. Unfortunately, it's his third game in a week, but he absolutely has to start. And if he blows a gasket, then you're going to have to bring on Kerkez probably. And I guess the big question is Wirtz. Personally, I don't think he'll start. I think Savinho down that side is a different ball game than playing against Tchouaméni for Robertson. He's going to need some help, and Florian Wirtz doesn't give anybody any help on the field defensively, regardless. So for that reason alone, I think absolutely Gakpo will start.
What?
Craig talked about this yesterday. Nada, what about looking at you now from the City perspective? How is that back four at Liverpool going to deal with the absolute threat of Manchester City going forward, especially when we saw finally other players coming to the goal-scoring party?
Well, to be honest, I watched the Real Madrid-Liverpool game in midweek, and the thing that impressed me the most from their standpoint was the fact that they didn't get drawn into this game to where Real Madrid could almost expose them on the counter-attack. You know, like we'd seen teams do against Liverpool in those first few weeks of the season. Instead of, say, committing loads of bodies forward, and in some ways, maybe the fact that Robertson was playing was a big part of this. Like, if they lost the ball in transition, you'd still see potentially at times the back four in there, maybe two of their midfielders. So whoever Real Madrid were trying to attack with, they were always outnumbered, and they could always slow the game down to a point where everybody else can work hard to get back in. So as a consequence, I think defensively, that's the attitude that I think they needed to have had throughout the season to this point, instead of getting hit so often in transition and sort of overcommitting at the worst times. And I think if they overcommit on Sunday, then, you know, I think City will be able to capitalise upon that itself. But this is funny because it's the psychology of football at times. You know, you want your attackers to at times cheat to give yourself the option of doing something good in transition. But if the other team attack you really well, then those players who are cheating, they might cost you. And for example, again, I thought obviously Conor Bradley was brilliant in midweek against Vinicius Jr., but there was a great camera angle from pitch side which showed Conor Bradley getting ready to defend against Vinicius, but just over Conor Bradley's shoulder was Gravenberch coming over. So Vinicius is always seeing a 2v1 against him, and it's sort of limiting the way that he's going to be able to play that situation. And I think when Liverpool have that sort of mentality and that sort of setup and that desire to want to suffer for each other and to defend hard, you know, they'll end up having one of the best defensive records between now and the end of the season. But when people don't put in those hard yards, then I think teams like City will probably tear them apart.
Yeah, Frank, I don't think I had that Liverpool backline dealing with the threat of Vinny Jr. and Kylian Mbappe so well on my bingo card. So if they go with that backline again, what do you think of what Nadam said? Do you think they can deal with the threat that Manchester City impose?
Manchester City front line is one of the top line of forwards and in the world. So it's going to be hard. It's going to be tricky. Don't forget that City at 3-0 midweek got a little bit sloppy. They conceded one goal, and if Adeyemi would have scored the second goal for Dortmund, it might have been another story at the end of the game. But well, it went well for the citizens, good for them. But they have quite of a inconsistency to keep the level for 90 minutes. So let's see how it works against Liverpool, who seems to be rebirthing from their past.
It was Dortmund, wasn't it? Sorry. Did I say that? I mean, not taking anything away from City, but I am in a way. I mean, historically, one of the bigger elite sides, that just give away goals. I mean, you saw that Haaland, the strike was brilliant. Yeah. Absolutely brilliant. Obviously, Doku left his defender on his backside. But there must have been 7 yellow jerseys there. Not one of them even close to picking up. So, yeah. You have to just temper it a little bit. City were really good, but it is Dortmund who just year on year just can't get the defensive aspect of the game right.
What do you make of what Stevie said that he doesn't see Wirtz starting, especially after we just finally saw him?
I haven't got a Scooby-Doo. I'm fed up guessing. I don't know. I just don't. I mean, we talked about this yesterday. There's no way he can throw Kerkez back in, because if it goes wrong, he'll get absolutely smashed. You'll just complete. I mean, Kerkez is already on eggshells, right? The confidence is sort of gone. So he's been taken out for a little breather. But I mean, long term at the moment, he's the successor. I mean, that can change, but he is. If he throws him back in at the Etihad against one of your main rivals and he gets a pasting, the manager's getting it and the player's absolutely gone. So as Stevie said, I mean, it's not ideal with 3 games in a week, but I think Robertson's got the football acumen just to go in there and say, like, I'm not going to be bombing forward. I don't need to bomb forward. I'll go when the time is right. But it's not that scare him up and down, because he doesn't do that anymore. Mm-hmm. And as an experienced fullback, he's just got to pick his moments. Yep. Make sure he's tucking in next to Van Dijk. Make sure he's pulling the wide player in, which is probably maybe the reason why it might not be Wirtz. Pulling that guy or the midfielder or the left-sided player back to help him and just holding his position. It's not going to take a lot of energy unless City are completely on top, and it's just wave after wave of attack, which I don't think it will be. So that one's an easy one to call. I don't know on the Verts. I think maybe unlikely, but not impossible.
If it's at Anfield, then I think he probably thinks about it more. But the fact that it's at City, I just don't see how he can.
He just came off of his best game in a Liverpool shirt. But actually,
but
interestingly on Florian Wirtz, just have a look at what Arne Slot had to say. He said, look, Florian can play in more than only one position. He can play off the left, which he did almost all the time in Leverkusen when Xabi Alonso came and introduced his 3-4-3 system. Before, he played as a 10 in a 4-3-3. It is more about getting him positions where he is good rather than being focused on, is he a 10, is he an 11, or is he an 8?
Well, the problem is, he's all of those.
But you prefer him on the left.
But what he's not is a defender. And so when you're in the position Liverpool are in, and you're going to City, you can't afford to carry a passenger. You know, we were talking about it earlier in the season where Liverpool were carrying 3, 4 and 5 passengers. Now they've got some form, they're not carrying anybody. So, yeah, you can't take the chance. This is a big game for Liverpool. I mean, Liverpool are pretty far behind as it is. If they lose this one, and Arsenal beat Sunderland, which they will, I mean, we're in the realms of, well, let's just make sure we get in the top 4. That's how big a game for Liverpool this is.
I mean, it's just a guessing game, isn't it, really? It's a bit like when you go and do a commentary with all these boring commentators. and they're rushing about the touchline. They're rushing about the touchline trying to get the teams, because and I'm like, the team's coming out. We'll get the team an hour before the game, and then we'll find out what the team is. Because up until that point, you're second guessing what a manager's going to do. It's a bit like predictions and all the other stuff that we do. We don't know. We don't know what he's going to do. We don't know what manager's going to choose. We don't know what way he's going to play. It's all a guessing game until you get the teams an hour before and the game starts. I mean, I'm not trying to be funny about it, but that's what it is.
Good job. We have predictions coming up later. But Frank, you wanted to jump in?
Guesses.
Yeah. I just want to jump on the Wirtz or Gokpa decision of the coach, whether you're going to put one of the others. The thing is that defensively, for me, from what I've seen, for example, with Chelsea or with Liverpool before, when we had the Trent Alexander-Arnold defensive issues where Anderson was covering him, helping him out. I think it should be the same with McAllister on the side, because we have McAllister and Gravenberch. Gravenberch should take care of Conor Bradley covering and helping him out, and McAllister on the other side. Gakpo or Wirtz have to go back in their position. Only that we don't have them to really defend. So that's not really the point. The point is how McAllister is going to help out Robertson. For me, that's the key of the game.
Who's going to help out the City fullbacks? Is that not no? Is it a one-way street here?
No,
I'm just wondering, are they super duper defensively that they're not? Who's going to watch Salah, or is it Gakpo, or is it Wirtz? Is it Gakpo playing in the wider position, making those runs at the back post, or is it Wirtz coming in to give, playing a little, tucking in a bit to give somebody a problem, a fullback something to think about? It's not just there's a problem for Liverpool there and a problem for maybe Conor Bradley or Robertson. There's, Liverpool have to make sure that they are making City think. Mm-hmm. And I think if you look, I might be wrong here, but City haven't won in this fixture, I believe, I stand corrected, since 2023. So, or maybe it's the other way around, I don't know, I can't remember. I read that somewhere. So, it's about Liverpool, in some ways, making Man City think on their feet at home, because they have possessions in the side, particularly at the back, that they are also weak in.
Well, Nadim, one of the things that we were saying that you should feel definitely a lot more optimistic about Manchester City is the fact that we finally see other people getting on the score sheet, not just Erling Haaland, but specifically Phil Foden. And we know exactly how much of a threat he can be when he's full of confidence and in goal-scoring form.
So when you can get the ball to somebody like him, you can see that injection of energy and you can see things change up. The link-up that he can have with Erling Haaland, link-up he can have with Doku, Savinho and so on. You get a chance to see like a really, really good number 10 for Man City. And the way that he does it, he's patient. He stays in those right sorts of areas. And if you get the ball to his feet, as I say, he's not looking to just set it off. He wants to turn and drive towards that goal. And best of all for him in midweek, those were two really, really classy finishes, making it seem so easy. And I think the more he does that, the better we'll see him.
So the second goal he scores there is what separates him from the rest of the players in the Premier League when he's at his best.
Yeah.
But Liverpool can't afford to do what Dortmund did and stand off him. And if Liverpool do stand off him, then we will be able to see what Phil Foden's capable of. And I think Liverpool are going to, you know, Craig was talking about, I'm sitting thinking when Craig was talking there about, to me this is going to be Liverpool counter-attacking as opposed to going out and trying to go toe-to-toe. Because that's how they'll get them. You're right, Núñez, if he plays on one side, and O'Reilly plays on the other side, their forte is not defending. And so I expect Liverpool to be counter-attacking, which means that they're going to be a little deeper and they're going to have bodies around, which means people like Phil Foden aren't going to be able to show us what he showed us against Dortmund, because I don't expect Liverpool to stand off him. Because if they do, then the result will be completely different.
All right, well, as usual, I asked the guys for predictions for this fixture. Let's have a look at what everyone said. And, talk about everyone being on the same page. Every single solitary person on this show has gone for a 2-2 draw. And I'm telling you, we were not talking before this. Stevie, would a draw, though, be enough for Liverpool to try and keep pace with Arsenal?
Well, no, because if they win at Sunderland, then they'll be another 2 points behind. But
you want to take back your prediction?
no, I see it being a draw, which, in terms of the title, doesn't help either of the two of them. Doesn't help either of the two of them. As long as we get a great game, then we'll all be happy, I suppose. But for both of these sides, a draw isn't a good result. Just puts them further back. And actually, for Liverpool, a draw is a worse result than it is for City, in my opinion.
All right, well, as we know, the international break is just around the corner. Oh, Frank, you don't agree?
No, I don't agree, because Liverpool playing away from home, drawing against Manchester City is a good result. Yeah, it's
well,
not a good result.
In terms of the title, Frank, that's what I meant.
Arsenal's going to do. No, of course, but who would have thought like a week ago that Liverpool could draw against Manchester City? So you have to go step by step. Yeah, for the championship, for the Premier League, sorry, it's maybe not, if Arsenal wins against Sunderland, a good result. But it's a result away from home, and in terms of confidence, it can bring something. It would be a very bad result for City, for sure.
All right, well, like I was saying, the international break is just around the corner, and Phil Foden and Jude Bellingham are back in Thomas Tuchel's squad for England. Here's what Tuchel had to say specifically about Jude Bellingham.
I will not reveal my confidential and private conversation with players here in public, but I think it's not a surprise for him to compete for us on the number 10 position. I think he knows from me, and I think he sees himself as a number 10. Like I said, I feel that his key strength from the number 10 is to find number 9 positions, and that he has this hunger and determination to score. This is what we see now for Real Madrid, and hopefully we see it next week for us.
All right, so just trying to make some sense of that. Natum, he's saying that Bellingham is a 10 and Foden's like a 9, 9.5 or 10, but must play centrally then. So is he hinting that they probably can't play together?
Yeah, I guess so. And then obviously when you add in one Harry Kane in there as well, you know, that also changes the dynamic. I think Harry Kane, we've seen in recent times, especially for Bayern, is doing really well when people, you know, will stay up the field as he starts to drop back in himself. So I think it's almost a case of figuring out which players will actually complement each other as opposed to go against Kane, who's going to, you know, essentially be starting every game for England for the foreseeable future. But yeah, I would agree that I think for Bellingham and for Foden to be playing together as like those 10s and those attacking midfielders, I think we saw a little bit of that last summer at the Euros, and I don't know, it didn't really work as well as say we'd hoped that it would do. I think Foden wasn't at his best for the majority of that tournament, and Bellingham obviously had his moments, but it was an England side that was still lacking creativity somehow. So yeah, I think he's hinting to that. I think he knows their strengths, but I think he'll also know the nature of the games where it's one or the other, or potentially, you know, like a Phil Foden, who will probably end up being the guy who's coming in off one side of the field, whether it's on the right or the left. So yeah, I don't think many people would see them playing together, and in some ways that's because you've got one Declan Rice, at the moment you've got Elliot Anderson, you know, and those two in midfield seem to be the key for England going forward. So yeah, I think he's kind of said what you've alluded to there.
Are these friendlies, or I thought?
Yeah, England are qualified.
Yeah, but it's qualifiers. It's World Cup. I'm looking at it. They're playing Thursday, November the 13th. Serbia World Cup qualifier against Albania. So it's not friendlies. Might as well be friendlies, because I don't care where he plays. Phil Foden and Jude Bellingham.
Do you think that's Jude Bellingham's best position as a number 10?
Yes, but they beat. I mean, he can smile all he wants, Thomas Tuchel, and all this guff about England and going to major tournaments. Let's judge it when they get to the World Cup, because they're playing Serbia, as I mentioned, and then they're playing Albania. They beat Serbia in Serbia 5-0. I mean, Southgate did the same. Hodgson did the same. Most of the previous managers all did the same. They battered the also-rans most of the time in the group stages, and then, for whatever reason, Southgate got the closest, but they came unstuck at major tournaments. So I don't care against Serbia and what he does with Phil Foden and Jude Bellingham. It's what he's going to do when he plays Italy, Spain, Brazil, France, all these teams, even Croatia, when Southgate got outfoxed by the Croatian manager in the semi-final. They were getting outdone in the middle of the park, and we all sat watching it going, they're getting outdone in the middle of the park, and he did nothing. Yeah. And so that's going to be the crux of the matter for England, and where Foden plays, if he plays, where Bellingham plays, all this sort of stuff that other England managers are having to deal with. It's not how he deals with it really here. And you might say, well, he learned a little bit there, but yet that's not the same as, playing France, up against it, playing Brazil or Argentina in a semi-final or a quarter-final. It's a complete difference. So it's nothing more now for England than, they are, I suppose, friendlies, but they're World Cup qualifiers, but they're nothing more than just a run-out. And quite frankly, they're just the most boring games on the planet. What?
Yeah, it can be boring, but you have to prepare the World Cup. You have to prepare the World Cup, and in order to prepare the World Cup, you have to prepare the players, and you have to make decisions, and you don't have to compromise. I think Bellingham, Foden, and Kane cannot play all together. It's impossible. It reminds me in '96, '98 when Aimé Jacquet had to make choices between Cantona and Zidane. He offered Zidane the position of striker. I think Cantona denied it, but it was clear for Aimé Jacquet that he had to make a choice between two fantastic players, and he had decided to put Zidane. He didn't compromise. I think at a certain point, the coach will have to decide whether it's going to be Bellingham and Foden, because against those big teams, Spain, France, Argentina, maybe Portugal, they can't play like that. It's impossible. It's too open.
Well, was Cantona in the squad?
No, he wasn't, because he didn't want to play. He didn't want to play in '98. He refused to play as a striker. So he decided to not take him as a substitute, because he knew that it would be maybe an issue. But can you imagine Cantona not being picked in '98 when he was the king of the king in England? So it's sometimes a hard decision, but if you have to make sure that your team works, and it works the way you want it to work. And I think with Bellingham, Foden, and Kane, it's hard to make it work, especially defensively.
So we are, what are we? How many months? 7 months?
6 months.
I would imagine he's got a fair idea.
Yeah. What
he wants to do. I don't think walloping Serbia or Albania or any of the other teams, might have been Latvia, I can't remember. I don't really think that. Frank's saying you're preparing the World Cup. I think he knows pretty much what he wants to do. What he's got to hope is that he has a problem, that Bellingham is fit and playing well for Real Madrid, that Foden's form, his trajectory continues to go in the right way, because he lost his way for quite some time for whatever reasons. I don't know, but he was a heck of a player. Incredible player week in, week out, and then it sort of went away. I think that's the bigger issue for Thomas Tuchel. I think making sure, like any manager, you can figure out, and you probably already have, what you're going to do with these players. What's more of a concern is when they go into a major tournament, are all my key players, are all my big players fit? Are they all in good form? And are they all up for it? And then you figure it out from there. That's the crux of it. I don't think you have to worry about, at this moment in time, can he play, They all know where they can play. They have to make sure they're in tip-top shape going into America, or North America here. Because if you're not, If you've got 4 or 5 guys that are not tip-top and they're off form, England have got no chance. Not that I think they have a great chance at the moment. They have a chance, I suppose, but if they have 4 or 5 of those guys off colour, they've got absolutely no chance to compete properly in this tournament. Well, you're looking at me as if I'm a bit angry today.
I know. Like, I thought you'd be more relaxed, you know, fresh off holiday, a bit more tan.
Not really, no.
No. It must have been the crocodile. No, it was an alligator, wasn't
great.
it? Anyways, for more Three Lions chats throughout the international break, make sure to check out our YouTube channel. And while you're there, make sure you hit that subscribe button. All right, let's talk about Chelsea, shall we? Look at this graphic. Now, Chelsea drew midweek with Qarabag in Europe. They're away at Wolves this weekend, but this graphic shows that Enzo Maresca, or they're at home rather, and Enzo Maresca making so many changes that he's come under some criticism, but the stats don't lie. He's made more changes this season than any other coach. But have a listen to what he's recently said about his rotations.
I think in this moment, football is a bit different compared to years ago in terms of physicality and intensity. For me personally, it's impossible to play with the same players 65 games in one season, Champions League, Premier League, and you cannot say, yeah, but why years ago was possible? Because it was different football, was not so physicality. I played for 20 years, was not so physical. Now change, so you need to rotate. This is my personal view. And I think you need to do that if you want to see a season like a marathon. Then when you are in February, when you are in March, that is the last sprint, probably you have to think in different way. But at the moment, I think you have to think like a long race.
Frank, what did you make of what Enzo Maresca had to say? Of course, he says he has no choice pretty much but to rotate, especially when the games are coming thick and fast. But is this becoming a problem for him?
I still have some issues to compare generations, but I think our generation and the football we were playing was more violent. I don't know in terms of physicality how you put it, you know, because that was very physical, that was very demanding. The field, the pitches were in the same state that we can see nowadays. The referees were very open-minded, I would say, especially in England. That was a war every game. So hearing nowadays that it's more physical, maybe because it's more open in the middle of the park, they run more. But is that the physical aspect of the game to run more? I'm not sure it is. The intensity that you put, I'm sorry, I'm bored watching games 70% of the time because it's so boring, it's so slow, it's so tiki-taka. Yeah, they don't touch the ball, they go around, whatever it can be. But really, to compare what I see before and what I used to see like 15, 20, 25 years ago, I don't see where we can say it's more physical. Now, it's hard with Chelsea to know because you have lots of injuries to say, you know, that you don't need to change players. But he likes to do that. He always had 2 teams. And he did that last season, and he had a team for the European campaign and another team for the Premier League. So he's used to that. And I'm sorry, against Qarabag, it didn't work. It didn't work because it was too much, because some players have not enough experience in that level to compete even against Qarabag. And because it doesn't put the level up. So that was a mistake. For me, it tries to find some excuses, but it doesn't work with me.
So here's the crux of the matter, right?
Go on, give us the crux.
The crux of the matter is, you've got bigger squads now. Frank's talking about when we played 25, 10, 50, whatever it is. So you can argue till you're blue in the face whether it's more physical or not. But the fact is that they've got twice the size of squads now. Mm-hmm. And everybody understands that you have to rotate. So your job is to make the right rotations at the right time with the right players in order to, when it comes to February, March, April, that you're actually in contention for things. There's no point in making 7 changes and you lose games, and then come February, everybody can run the 100 metres in 10 seconds, but it's too late. You can't win the title.
Yeah.
So his job is not to complain whether it's too physical or not. His job is to make changes when they need to be made, not just blanket throwing 7. We sit here week after week talking about how inconsistent Chelsea are. Well, guess what? If you're going to make 7 changes every time, then you're going to be inconsistent. So you have to figure it out that you're maybe changing 3. And then the next week it's 3 different ones. And then that way that you know, they got more staff, they got more computers, they got more data. So don't complain, figure it out and work it out how it suits you best, instead of just complaining.
And what Stevie didn't say, and with Craig and Stevie and I, we had only 2 substitutes. 2. They have how many? 5, 6, 7 every game? Almost you can change the whole team, you know. Come on, stop complaining, you know. Make them run, make them fight. I don't know, whatever, you know. But I'm fed up to hear that.
Nobody talked about rotation when people couldn't really rotate. When Stevie's Liverpool were winning, correct me if I'm wrong, but the Champions League called the European Cup. They played in the midweek, still played in the League Cup, still played in the FA Cup. They still won. Still competed, They were tired, couldn't rotate because they didn't have the squad. When Man United won the treble in '99 with Ferguson's team, wasn't a hell of much rotation, but they were successful. There was no grass in the field hardly back then, particularly in the Premier League. You were running through a trough. There's a counter-argument to what Maresca's saying here, is never have the players been fitter, never have the players been more looked after, never have the players had more help. And yet, never have the players had more excuses. There's gremlins in the back, gremlins, sports scientists, he can't play, nonsense. Absolute nonsense. I don't care how many changes Enzo Maresca makes. He can make 300 changes between now and the end of the season. I couldn't give a toss. He's only going to be judged on results, on where Chelsea finish, on how successful they are, and whether he'll keep his job or not, right? So he can make changes. I don't care. You make changes, you win. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. And he can come out and say all he wants, right, about the game being more physical and this. That's it. Listen, we could argue about that, debate it for a week. All right, there's no doubt the game has changed, but there's no doubt the pitches are better. There's no doubt the players are pampered a lot more. There's no doubt they understand more about fitness and how to keep players fit, right? But there is also no doubt that there are people behind the scenes at all these elite football clubs just telling managers and coaches what players can't do. He can't do this, he can't do that, he can't play 3 games, he can't. That was never a problem before. And you've got injuries now, you had injuries then. It's all going to boil down to not how many changes he makes, but how many good results he gets. Now, he can do it either way. A, B, C or D. Doesn't matter. Liverpool last year didn't make many changes, particularly at the start of the year, 6 months, and they rolled away with the Premier League, did all the hard graft. And okay, maybe it came back to haunt them a little bit near the end of the season. That's getting the balance right. But, you know, we can listen to his quotes, he can say what he wants. No, at the end of the year, we will not talk about his changes. We will talk about where they've finished, how successful they have been, or how successful or unsuccessful they have been, and whether Enzo Maresca will stay in the job. But there is absolutely no doubt there are too many people behind the scenes now telling managers what players can't do, rather than a manager understanding what a player can do. And that, I think, is to the detriment of some of the performances, because they have the leeway to go back into the well and bring players from the squad. Never had that before, and guess what? It wasn't a major problem for a lot of these guys.
Well, let me go to Nadim, because Nadim is of the younger, more pampered generation of footballers. Nadim, where do you stand in all of this? And also, given the fact that after that draw with Qarabag, Enzo Maresca sort of hinted that he also has to deal with these rotations and do them because of his team going all the way in the Club World Cup.
Yeah, listen, I've never felt younger than at this point in the show in my 5 years working. Never have I felt younger. Because listening to everything that the boys are saying, like, I don't necessarily disagree with it, because the pitches were worse back in the day. There's a sense of like physicality which was definitely there back in the day. And for myself, starting in the early 2000s, retiring in 2020, I saw some of the changes come across. And to sort of bail out Maresca a little bit here, like his words and stuff were coming because of a critique that Wayne Rooney put towards him, which said that he made too many changes. So him just coming out, he's not necessarily seeking sympathy. He's almost trying to give an explanation from his side of things. And some of those changes that Chelsea have had in recent weeks and the last month or so is because someone like Lavia has been in and out, someone like Liam Delat's been in and out. They've had centre-halves be in and out with injury and so on. So some of those changes in some ways at times have been enforced. But if you look, there's still a core spine that exists within that side who he really trusts. And he plays every single time, whether it's a Fernandes, it's like Caicedo, those types of players. So yeah, to talk about my side of things, I remember when the Premier League changed from my perspective, and it was the time, to be honest, when Gareth Bale was at Spurs and he was really, really performing to a high level. And if you remember, for the style of play that he had, he was so fast, he was so direct, and he could just keep going and keep going and keep going. And at that stage there, we used to wear the GPS vests and so on. And what they noticed was that his high intensity running was somewhere between like 1,000 and 2,000 meters in a game, which was so far ahead of most players, so far ahead of the average player. And as time passed, they started to say to players, you need to have this capacity to be able to do that. And what Maresca was alluding to there was the intensity, because it is about, the Premier League these days is about the number of sprints you can do. How many can you do? Can you repeat them? Can you be doing them later in the game? So the intensity did change across the years and the expectation changed from that standpoint. So now a slur that you can give to a team is like West Ham a few weeks ago. West Ham, they're slow. So people are still covering the same distances they did from when the boys were playing and when, say, I was playing. But there's certain aspects whereby you have to sprint more, and that's the intensity that you're speaking about. But yeah, I get what the guys are saying, because that's their generation. This is something that they've lived through. But things have changed across the way. And I've got to mention as well, from a Man City perspective, when they were at their absolute peak, say 4 years ago, Guardiola at the start of the season would always be making 3 or 4 changes every game. And his whole purpose was, when he gets to the end of the season, not that many of the players are in a position to where they're redlining and they're on the verge of breaking down. And it also allows the players within the squad to have that sense of, still being involved, so that when the end of the season comes, they're as ready as the next person. So when the 2-3 changes are happening every game and, you're still winning, it doesn't really matter. And we sort of praise squad depth. Or we could talk about the other side of it with, say, Ange Postecoglou when he was at Spurs. And he was people were saying he's running Van de Ven and Romero into the ground, trying to bring them back too soon. These guys are suffering. Why won't you make changes and so on? So there are two opposite ends of the spectrum, and I respect what the guys have said. But like I say, the people involved in the Premier League now, they hold the players to a different sort of, like, when I say physical standard, I'm talking about that running standard. And I think that's what Maresca sees on a day-to-day basis and the effect that it can have.
When I left Celtic to go to Derby in 1990, Derby, right, smaller club, terrible team at the time, fighting relegation. Jim Smith was the manager, no longer with. He was old school, Jim, old school. But guess what he had? He had Prozone. Back in 99, Prozone. It was measuring all the players' training. It was measuring all the players in a game. And a Monday morning, we'd sit down in a meeting room and he'd go through the Prozone with his coaches and the players. 99. We understood what running was then. We understood what intensity. It told you, it didn't just tell you how far you run. It told you the intensity. It told you a lot. Now, is it enhanced now and more enhanced? Yes. But we had technology, even in 99, even at Derby, even with an old school manager and the bald eagle Jim Smith. But guess what? There are two things in football. There's a, well...
Never change, aye.
Yeah, there's good players, there's average players, and there's bad players. And the good players don't make an excuse for the running. The good players run at the correct times. The good players don't need to be told where their high-intensity runs are and what. And I get all this technical stuff. I understand it. But the basics stay the same. Good players and average players. And when you put in average players in the team, you generally get average results. You can put bands on and you can measure the data and you can do all you want. But that never changes. The pitch size roughly never changes. The goals stay the same. And there's good players and there's bad players. And that is the bottom line here.
Well,
Have I confused the situation?
No, never. Craig, confused
Did he mention the Club World Cup?
He did. That's exactly what I was going to come to you on. Do you see that actually affecting Chelsea now, as you did predict would?
Well, I don't really care if it affects Chelsea, but I mean, it was always going to be interesting for us analysing it to look at and see all the teams that were there. The big teams that were there, not the ones that sort of weaseled their way in and got paid a few quid. Was the big teams, how it was going to affect them and how it was going to affect their injuries and their performance. So I suppose all that will come out in the wash near the end of the season. But he can, you know, he can, and other managers can look to that. Go and see that guy Infantino. Go and talk to him about it. Go and talk to him about the Club World Cup. We told you at times, a bag of crap.
Yeah, but
that's what it is.
Still,
Frank?
but still, Craig, I'm sorry, I'm going to refer to the '98 World Cup and Marcel Desailly and myself. We played all the games during the season. We won with Chelsea 4 titles. We played the European Cup, so we went far in the European Cup. We were far in the League Cup that we won, and went to play the World Cup. We had like 2 weeks and a half holidays. And we had to play with Chelsea, Marcel just signed, and we played almost all games season long. We played the semi-final of the Cup Winners' Cup, European Cup, which doesn't exist anymore. We played the Premier League, we played the FA Cup, we played with the national team for the qualification of the European. We never complained about anything. We never felt tired. And we were happy to go for it, and we didn't get injured. I don't know. Maybe they're more fragile. Maybe they are too wondering about anything. We were going for it.
They're soft.
And again, talk about the field.
Mentality.
Yes.
But they are soft these days. They're soft.
You're calling Nedum soft.
No, Nedum's retired. They're soft.
Nedum is half soft. It's between the two
There's
generations.
nothing worse
Half
now.
soft.
They're soft. Most of them, they're soft and they're pampered. They're highly paid, pampered softies, the bulk of them, right? Now, a lot of them are very talented. But I think we're all a bit sick now. Is sitting here listening to managers and players talking about fatigue. I mean, we're in November.
No, but
we're in November.
You see Caicedo. Is he complaining? He plays every game. He's fantastic. He runs everywhere. And it's what we talk. It's Craig was talking about, the good player. They don't complain. They go for it. They go for it and they're good. So, yeah, I don't know.
You think players never run? You think players never run about? I mean, you think we just, what do we play?
Nedum, what's making you chuckle so much?
Because I don't know what we're talking about anymore. Which player's complaining? It was Maresca answering a question. Like, how do we get here? Like, the players you may perceive them to be soft and pampered, but I'm sure the players that played football before the guys on this panel played football would have called you guys also soft and pampered. It's like a generational thing to where we believe everybody's getting softer.
Yeah, but we never moaned about games, Nedum. We didn't come out.
But who's moaning? But who's moaning? But who's moaning? Who's moaning? That's the thing.
Who's moaning? Every manager and coach, even players are coming out moaning about it.
Which players? That's the thing. Because we're talking about players, for example, like in years gone by, we've had like Rodri, we've had Courtois, all these guys. And it's not just the fact that they're playing too many games this season. For them, it's 3, 4, 5 years worth, all coming off the back of the pandemic, for example. For when there's like the Nations League games and all these extra games being brought in, and some are playing like 70, 80 games in a season, which I think, stop me if I'm wrong, I think that's more than any generation beforehand has had to play before. And for me, I say this is a reason why, like, it's not in isolation, because it's not just one season. And I think the accumulation, as Frank said, you know, you have a 2.5 week break in the summer before you start again. That's too short. But when you do it 3, 4 years in a row, well, I think they're pretty much entitled to complain because it does feel like it's too much.
I think, Nedum, I think Zidane, when he won the Champions League in 2002, I think it was, and they compare with another player from Real Madrid when they won the last time they won the Champions League. Zidane played more games. He played more games, and he never complained about that. And he was in the middle of a before World Cup 2002, and he played all the games. And so they are playing games. I remember that in average, 98 players from France play like 60, 62 games a season. So I think it's more like we are trying to find why players are so much injured nowadays. And that's maybe the question mark we have to find. Why they are so much injured.
All right, well, let's move on now to a little bit of refreshing news, shall we? To just, brighten the spirits. Ruben Amorim was named Premier League Manager of the Month.
That's one of the most ridiculous things ever. I tell you what.
That's why we shut down the show.
And Brian Mboma got Player of the Month, too, for the month of October. But we're going to see if they can continue that form into November, because they do have to travel.
What form?
They
should have lost at Nottingham Forest.
Craig, you pictured, or you predicted
whoever
a loss.
Yeah.
For United.
Yeah, I did, yeah. What, did you watch them play at Forest last week?
Yeah.
Right.
Unfortunately.
Whoever voted for Ruben Amorim to be coach of the month because he won a couple of games and everybody felt sorry for him. Mikel Arteta, they never lost a game. I don't think they lost a goal, whether you like him or not. Right? At the end of the day, if you're going to be doing this with awards, don't have awards, right? Just don't have it, right? Because this is ridiculous. I've gone for one now. I'll tell you why. Because I don't really think United are a great side, and I think they showed that last week when they were under pressure at Forest. Yeah, they had a couple of good results before that. I'll give you that. And Tottenham are sort of buoyed by a better performance midweek. I'm only doing it because they're at home, because they were absolutely rank rotten against Chelsea.
Yeah.
I think Thomas Frank, the Tottenham fans are undecided about him, shall I say? And there was that incident last week where, was it Van de Ven and Spence sort of blanked him? Never a good sign. Never a good sign for any manager, never mind a new manager. But just because they're at home and just because generally their defence is quite strong, I've gone for Tottenham. But to be honest, it could go either way. I don't really.
Nathan, what do you think? You actually have surprisingly gone for a Manchester United win, and I didn't have to twist your arm for that one.
Yeah, beware of the jinx. Beware of the prediction jinx, Alexis. But yeah, in all seriousness, I've seen United play better in the league in the last few weeks compared to, say, Spurs, who have had those up and downs. And as that sort of graphic shows, at home, they've really not shown anything at all. And I think from Craig's perspective, talking about Spurs at home against Chelsea, they were horrible. When you think about the nature of that game, it's a big game, it's a rivalry, and there was just nothing there whatsoever. So in some ways, maybe, Spurs aren't going to be a great side going forward playing at home. Obviously, they had a good result in the Champions League in midweek, but even within that, there was some level of toil. But I think in this moment in time, United arrived in a better moment, and as a consequence, I think I could see them winning the game.
Well, Spurs showed that they can definitely score some goals. We saw that in the Champions League, some stunning ones, especially from Mickey van der Ven.
I mean,
still not convinced.
Tottenham versus Manchester United, historically, when you look at the fixture, should excite you. But there's nothing that really excites me about this game.
Because what's on the line, really, for these two teams at the end of the season?
I mean, Manchester United, he got that award because of the Liverpool game. That's why Amorim got the award. And he still talks, every weekend, he still talks about how they fall asleep. And he's right. And that's what he did at Forest.
Yeah.
They dominated the first half, and then they were lucky they got the point at the end of the day. I mean, really. There's nothing that excites me about this game, honestly. I think Mbomo probably deserved to get his award, because I think he's been their standout player, and he has absolutely made a difference. And he might do the same in this game and get a goal. But I don't trust Manchester United at all. And Tottenham going forward, they may have scored the other night against, Copenhagen, right?
Yep.
They were playing against 10 men. They were playing with 10 men, sorry. And Copenhagen just lay down. So it's hard to get carried away about Spurs going forward. But again, I don't trust Manchester United. I don't trust the back line to keep MD out. So that's why I've gone for a 1-1. But I can't. I'm going to have to get up at 70 to watch this.
Yeah, same. Well, Frank, Stevie's not excited, but you've gone for a couple of goals in this one, a 3-1 win for Spurs.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to me, but really, yeah. I think I go with the statistics and the odds and everything, and I say, when you are Spurs and you lost 1-0 the way you lost against Chelsea at home, it can happen twice. And players, they know that. They will have a pride. They will work hard. And maybe they can change the attitude that they had and the bad attitude they had. I'm talking about Van der Ven and Spence toward the coach at the end of the game. So they want to make sure the fans will cheer them up. So they're going to work hard and they're going to win that game. And I'm with Stevie. I'm not convinced about Manchester United. I saw the game against Nottingham Forest. Yeah, they were better against Nottingham Forest, but they were shaky at some point, like for 5 minutes. Like I rarely I've seen that. So let's see how it works for the both team. But yeah, we are talking about two teams. We finished 16 and 17 last season, or 15 and 16 last season. So I don't expect too much. I will be on the train on my way to my play. So let's see if I have a connection. If I don't have a connection, that's not a big deal.
Wow.
I think you know, Thomas Frank did a really good job at Brentford. But if you look back at the way they played, there was a certain style about how they did things, and a lot of it was sort of counter-attacking, balls over the top, pace and aggression with the guys up front. There has to be a bit more at a club like Tottenham than that, and I think, to be honest, they've made a mistake. I think Frank's a good manager, but I think Areola is a much better one. I think that was the choice they should have gone for, and I think they've been sort of laden with another Daniel Levy decision before he was booted out of the football club by ownership, who did an audit of how he was running the club, and it was his push to get Thomas Frank to come in. And it's early days for him. Now, don't get me wrong, it is early days, but I do think that was his last sort of hurrah of a mistake. And he made many, was pushing the boat out to get Thomas Frank from Brentford when the best guy available was the guy managing Bournemouth, who's still, although they lost last week, when you lose 3 or 4 of your best players, as they did, and they're still sitting, as they were, going into last week, I think, in the top 4 in the Premier League, that's telling you the job he's doing there. So I think there's a lot.
And the way they play as well.
Yeah, the football that they play, the way they go about it, everything he does, from his time in Spain to his time at Bournemouth, is just classy. And Thomas Frank has got this work ethic and organisation, and that was great for Brentford. But I think the Tottenham fans, you know, you can argue all you want about, you know, success and not success, but they're demanding a little bit more than that. You know, they don't want the Ange Postecoglou, you know, scattergun approach, but they don't want this kind of football that they've seen this season at home and in many games, and certainly the game against Chelsea. So he has to find the balance between this sort of defensive, turgid approach to getting the more of the flair players into the game. And I think there is a big question mark whether he's the man to actually do that or not. But I've still gone narrowly for a win because I don't think either are great sides.
No. You
seem disappointed.
Yeah, started on a positive for me, ended on a negative.
Well, it's not about it's not about who supports who in this show.
Exactly. All right, well, here's all the Premier League
be.
fixtures coming up this weekend. We talked about some of the big guns playing, but Arsenal, they are the big gun at the moment. They are up against Sunderland. Something tells me Nathan will be very tuned into that game. All right, that's it for this edition of ESPN FC. But as usual, don't go anywhere. I've got your questions right here coming up in Extra Time. Welcome into Extra Time. We've got Stevie, we've got Craig, we've got Nathan, we've got Frank. What an absolute full house. And I've got plenty of questions. First question.
I'm not sure we can do this.
What?
Maybe we need a sports scientist to tell us if we're able to do it.
To pamper you a bit more?
Yeah.
Well, it was when we started doing it was a lot easier. It's getting more physical sitting here for longer.
The show's just changed.
Yeah.
It used to be half an hour and out. Now it's grown arms and legs.
Now it's 1 hour.
And the fatigue level.
7 days a week.
We need some of those, what do you call it, eagle lights? What are they called when they shook all that stuff to give them energy?
Electrolytes.
Electrolytes.
You say eagle lights.
Oh, I didn't know. I had a guess at it. We need electrolytes. That's what we need during the show.
Rotation.
Yeah.
Rotation. Well, there's rotation. Are you off?
Get Shaq back.
Shaq did a double shift yesterday. He can't take much more.
We can do a half shift today. I can go out and he can come in, and like I could come back in at extra time, and then we're not overloading.
But then that messes with the chemistry that we have so well.
What chemistry?
On that note, first question's for Nadam. Nadam, does it matter that City are becoming Haaland dependent, or as long as they're winning, considering how badly last season was, is the only important thing for them right now? I don't think they're Haaland dependent anymore.
I think for some of the attacking, I think for some of the attacking talent that they have, you know, with Doku, Savinho's, Shirky's, looking at Foden's, and even like Oscar Bob's as well, if they're not scoring goals, I think those players themselves will be disappointed, and rightly so. But if they're ultimately winning games of football, then for me personally, I don't really care, and I think deep down the manager probably doesn't care as well, because one thing it means is that they'll be assisting Haaland, they'll be creative and so on, but I think ultimately winning games of football is the key, and if they could win every game of football 1-0 from now to the end of the season, I'm pretty sure they'd take that, even if, say, your winger doesn't score, so I'm not too bothered.
All right, there's your answer. Next question is for the defenders, and boy, do we have plenty on this panel today. How long does it take to forget an own goal? Steve?
Generally depends how experienced you are. If you're a kid,
Oh, it haunts you for a bit.
well, you know, when you've got a certain amount of games behind you and it happens, then you just go, okay, it's happened. Can't do anything about it now. The only thing that matters is the next thing I do. So it really depends on where you are in your career. I'd suggest probably a young defender takes a little bit longer to get over. And again, it's an individual thing as well. Some guys, you know, some defenders have just pretty blank between the ears, and so it doesn't really bother them. But so yeah, I would say it depends more on how experienced you are and where you are in your career, how quickly you get over it.
Frank, what about you?
I would say a night, and the day after it's another day. But it's like, you know, missing a big chance. It's the same for me, or a good pass. For me, it was I was thinking about it, you know, all night long. But the day after, you know, was going to the training station and it was forgotten because I had to think about the next game. But it wasn't a trauma. No, it's part of our job. It can happen. We can make mistakes, and again, you know, that's something that has to be part of our job and the risk of our job. So you have to accept it. And when it happens, you're not happy, but you have to go through the process of healing from there.
Oh, process of healing. Nadam's had to do a lot of healing. Nadam, how long did it take you to forget own goals? Nadam knows I love him.
Where's that come from? Yeah, anyway, I think I'm the same as Frank. So as far as football goes, I play in a game and then that game will exist in my mind until we go next time I kick a ball. So that would be the next training session. And then from there, you just on to the next thing. And thankfully, I think I scored maybe like 2, possibly 3 own goals. And I don't remember 2 of them because essentially, you know, they're just things that just happen sometimes. If you're a player, for example, that, you know, tries to make a back pass and put it into your own net, the next time you try and make a back pass, maybe it exists in your mind. But when it's just an unfortunate own goal, as Frank said, it's just a part of the game and you can just move on from it pretty quickly, to be honest.
All right, look at that. Everyone's so healed, not holding on to any baggage like I do. Next question. Does Mickey van de Ven resemble any centre-backs you've played with or against?
No.
That was simple.
No.
Oh, I've missed Craig.
For me, in terms of physique and defending, I would say Daniel van Buiten that I play with at Marseille. Who after played for Bayern Munich and won the Champions League with Bayern Munich. Great fella from Belgium. But in terms of pace, you know, being so tall and so fast, I don't remember anybody like him. That's absolutely insane.
So Van Buiten's like him then?
In terms of pace,
Defensively, yeah.
I played against.
Des, what you play against Des?
Yep.
In terms of pace, maybe Des.
Yeah, but
Des was quick.
But Des didn't have his composure going forward on the left foot on the ball. So the answer's no again.
Pace wise.
Nadam?
Oh my
no.
God.
No, I can't think of anyone, to be honest. Because we're talking about somebody who's potentially fastest in the league, and he's left-footed, and he's got the size. Like, I get Frank's comparison with Daniel van Buiten because he came to City for a little bit on loan, and I do see that now that he said it. So, but ultimately, he's a unicorn. I think that's a big reason why he's such an important player for Spurs.
All right, there you have it. Mickey van de Ven.
He knocked us
One
out
of a kind.
he knocked us out of the Euros qualifiers.
Oh.
Van Buiten.
Oh, he's why you're resentful.
Not Van de Ven.
He said he's very resentful.
I'm not resentful. I'm not resentful because he didn't.
He's done healing.
I just had to sit and listen to the answers that were incorrect.
Fair. So let's go to the next one.
Oh my God.
This next one's for Nadam. Nadam, Stevie says Sunderland have no chance to qualify for Europe this season. Are you willing to rep Black Cat Nation and make a wager with him on that? Ooh, Nadam's got a lot of money, so Nadam, come on. Throw something out there. Stevie's a betting man.
What's the least amount of money we can bet? What's the least amount of money we can bet, and let's do that.
Well, how far will it go down?
Just so
7?
we can feel good about it.
7 places, something like that? 8, maybe 8 places? 5 Champions League. It's 7 places.
Yeah.
Is it for Europe at all?
Even
Oh,
8,
okay.
even 8 possible.
What, you mean you thinking it's a Champions League?
If somebody
That's where
wins
my
the
mind
FA
is.
Cup or win the Champions League, that they can go until 8.
Stevie, what's the minimum Nadam's
Yeah,
allowed
I'll
to
take
put
that.
on the line?
I think I've got a bet with Shaka, haven't I?
On this as well?
No, on something I can't
On
remember.
Newcastle.
I've had that many bets, I can't even remember the ones I've got.
Well, we need a fresh
don't need
one now with
another one.
Nedum. You could be cashing in.
Nedum's not going to bet me on that.
Nedum will. He's
I
ready.
could be.
He said that. What's the least
Yeah,
he can
let's
put
do
in?
it, Stevie. Let's do it. I'll give you a
20?
single dollar.
just lose.
20
Single
US
dollar
dollars?
for Europe next season. No.
No, 20 US dollars? Too low for you? How about 50?
No point then.
One,
No point then.
No, one single US dollar. Thank you very much.
Oh, I think your bet with Shaka is whether Hugo Ekitike will score more than Joao Pedro.
Right. I remember it now. Yeah. No, Nedum's not going to bet. Sunderland ain't going in
Oh,
Europe.
Nedum, they don't think you're up for it.
Sunderland ain't getting in Europe.
It's this new pampered
bet.
generation of players. But it's important to note, though, Nedum, that Stevie, if he has to pay up, he pays in coins.
I wouldn't need to pay up on this one.
That's fine. That's fine.
Okay. You can still take coin to the bank. I know that's right. So, okay, so we're not betting?
No, we're moving on.
Okay, we're moving
Okay,
on.
okay, next
I'll
one.
take it.
Well, we're trying to move on, at least. I mean, unless we want to
Yeah.
just waffle
Try.
more. I don't know.
All right, we'll just move on.
Yeah, I think that's helpful.
Okay. Next question. Which side, Liverpool or City, need the win more this weekend? Slot said City Liverpool is similar to El Clasico. Is he right? And which rivalry as a player would you always turn on to watch now as a pundit? Wow, that's like 3 questions in one, James. You went for it.
Well, A, it's not like a classical. That's nonsense.
Aye.
B, they both need it, really. And what's the last bit?
Which rivalry as a player would you always turn on to watch
What do you mean rivalry?
now as a pundit? I suppose either...
No, he's going to say none.
Yeah. Clubs, like an El Clasico, the Clasico, Merseyside Derby, which one would you always turn on to watch? You wouldn't miss.
You want to get up for any of them, wouldn't
Well, I don't
you?
understand.
Would you get up at 7:30 to watch any of them?
What?
Any of those games?
Oh, come on, like Tottenham.
Because Arne Slot said that he would always.
But
tune
that's
into
asking
City Liverpool.
which game you played in as a player. Rivalry, no? I don't understand.
Well, Nedum,
As a former player, whatever.
As a pundit, I would always watch the Clásicos. I've watched the Clásicos from when I was a player, and I'm still going
Yeah.
to watch them for the rest of my life. Even without Messi and Ronaldo, that's still one of the biggest games in world football, if not the biggest. So that's the one for me. And then outside of that, Premier League based, I actually quite enjoy watching United versus Liverpool, and I think that is essentially like the showpiece game for the Premier League as well. So I'd probably say they're my 2 games.
and which of the two, City or Liverpool, do you think needed the most this weekend? Craig said both.
To be honest, I'd probably have to lean into the City bias because Frank made a good point earlier that for as much as this game is really important for both, City are at home, so this is their advantage. And if they're to play, and when they play Liverpool again later in the season, City's record at Anfield is pathetic to say the very least. So if you want to take some points away from somebody who could potentially win a title, it's got to be this weekend.
Probably got to go with Scotland, England. Even though right now you're scared to watch it. That would be the game I would.
Scotland are on the up.
How did you figure that out?
I tried. I'm just trying to buoy
We
you.
did watch those as kids, though, didn't we? Scotland, England.
Aye.
We did watch those
Yeah.
as kids.
Aye, always. No,
But I wouldn't get out of bed to watch it now, to be honest with you. Well, if I was working, I would, obviously, because I'd have to watch it because I was working. But I love watching the Classical. I just think that's a great game. It's usually a great game. But yeah, that's all, really.
All right, well, that's it.
I thought you'd almost come alive for a minute.
I
there,
know,
but
he
no.
did come alive.
No, nearly.
He's getting slightly
It's so
sentimental.
close.
I was loving that.
not really.
Close.
A softer Craig.
If I can have a word on that,
You may, Frank.
for me, the best derby ever to watch, and in only one way, it's Boca Junior against River Plate.
Never seen
wow.
that in my
I
life.
love the atmosphere, the craziness. I love that.
Yeah. Well, good. You go and love
That's
it.
good old South American football.
I've managed to manage 50 odd years without watching that game, so I'm
and
okay
he's
with that.
back. And he's back. We saw a little soft part when he was talking about being a kid watching Scotland, England.
Not really, no.
Slightly. There was a slight glimmer, wasn't it? When you looked at Stevie.
Sorry?
All right, that's it for Extra Time, everyone. Make sure to tune in to our show tomorrow where we look back at all of the action from the Bundesliga to La Liga and, of course, the Premier League.